Perfect. Great. Well, awesome. Welcome to the study abroad info section for the University of Melbourne. Really excited to talk about this program. It's fabulous. And we are really lucky here tonight to be joined by a recent alum and participant in the University of Melbourne program. So Abby, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, my name is Abby. I was class of 2021. I went to Melbourne summer of 2019 and got sent home spring of 2020. So I did a year-long, or was meant to be a year-long program there. I graduated with an English major, double minors in philosophy and environmental studies. I currently work for a global private equity firm in DC. And yeah.
Awesome. A global private equity firm? That's amazing. That's so cool. I'm sorry to all of you. You have to hear me sort of, just chumming it up with Abby. It's been a while. I went out on leave before Abby was able to I was able to say goodbye and catch up with Abby and all of her things that she's done now that she's graduated. So you have to, tolerate that. All right, let's get into it, shall we? So can you all see my screen here?
No.
No, that's because I haven't shared it. You'd think this was the first time I did this. Give me one sec. All right, that's looking better, right?
Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay. We'll play from start. Okay, make sure this is off to the side here. All right, super. So this is a fantastic program. It's our only English-speaking university program outside of Europe. It's one of my favorites to advise on. It's just got so much to offer students, and as I said, I'm thrilled to have Abby here to be able to talk about it from her perspective. So Abby, I'll be calling on you at various points, but certainly if there are things that you feel inspired, pop right in, interrupt me at will. So the program is in Melbourne, Australia. A little bit of context for you. So Australia is a place with a fascinating, if complicated history. It was inhabited by Aboriginal folks for 50,000 to 60,000 years. It was only discovered in 1770 by European folks, Captain Cook, again in 1770. So relatively speaking, quite recently. There are 6 federal states in Australia. Victoria is one of them, and that's where Melbourne is located. The overall population of Australia is 25 million. So I think that's an interesting sort of frame of reference when you consider the U.S. being 328 million, roughly a similar size geographically, but definitely smaller population. The capital's next door, Canberra, and you've got a range of languages spoken in Australia. Obviously, Australian English being the most common. After that, you've got a number of indigenous languages, although fewer than certainly before, only 20 left of an estimated 250. Also common languages after that include Mandarin, Greek, and Arabic. The government is a federal parliamentary constitutional monarchy, so they swear fealty to the crown. Again, this is just I'm really happy that we have this program on the books for students because it gives students an alternative to often the default target of Europe. So let's talk a little bit about the city. So Melbourne is an awesome city. One of the things too is you're thinking about how this fits into the broader sort of portfolio programs at Holy Cross. Is that it is a city, right? So, if you think about some of the programs we have, a lot of the majority, I would say, are in relatively smaller cities. Dublin might be an important exception to that. But yeah, we're talking 4.5 million people. So, Worcester's a fun place and all, but, in terms of like having a lot of things to do, just a really dynamic place to be as just like your context for living and learning, Melbourne is an awesome place for that. It's the largest city. It's also the capital of Victoria and the second largest city in the country. Consistently has held the title of the most livable city. It's just really a pleasant place to be. It's got all kinds of cultural sites of interest, all kinds of things going on in the way of you name it, sort of sports, music, arts. They've got fabulous museums. They've got a huge tramway system, biggest one outside of Europe. One of the things that I love about Melbourne as well is that it's a really diverse place. It's, a third of folks that live in Melbourne proper were born outside of Australia. There's a particularly large Southeast Asian population. It makes it just, again, a really, really wonderful, dynamic, interesting place to live and learn. Abby, why don't you jump in? Tell us a little bit about Melbourne from your perspective.
Yeah, so I obviously love it there. So like it is such a different experience than being at Holy Cross. You really the University of Melbourne is like right in the city. I would say like it's 20 minutes, 25-minute walk. If you wanted to, you're also like right by a tram stop, so you can just take that in and it's less than 10 minutes as well. It's a great city, like Chris said. Beautiful street art everywhere, incredible museums, cute like coffee shops, great restaurants. You've got like Chinatown, which is incredible food. You've also got Lygon Street, which is a lot of Italian food. Gelatos like everywhere you turn, which is really great. It's just like so great. Everyone is so nice and welcoming. Like I remember we were going thrift shopping, like one of the first couple days that I had been there. And like the shop owner had found out that like we were from America and we were new to the city, and she literally just like sat there and wrote out a list of things for like us to do or places to go. So everyone's really welcoming. It's really easy to navigate. And yeah, it's just, I think it's one of like the best places to live in the world. So
Awesome. I've just realized as I was looking through our folks who are in attendance today that we are super lucky that we have not only Abby here with us tonight, but we also have Francis, who was there for, I believe, can you correct me if I'm wrong, Francis, but fall of 2019. Francis, can you introduce yourself? Let's see.
Yeah, what's up, Chris?
Hey, Francis, it's so good to hear and see you. My goodness, this is great.
I know, good to see you too. It's been a minute. It's been a minute.
Absolutely. Congratulations belatedly on your graduation, man. This is super exciting to have you back.
Yeah, of course. I'm part of that notorious Zoom class of 2020. So
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think I heard you say I was there fall of 2019. Yeah. I believe that's when I went.
That's fantastic. Can you introduce yourself? Tell us your, so you mentioned your class what year, what about, major, that sort of thing. Yep.
Yeah, so I graduated HC in 2020 last year during Zoom. I went to Melbourne fall of 2019. Sorry, fall of 2018, actually.
18. Has it been that long? My goodness. Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's been a minute. At HC, I did a major in poli-sci and sociology. And I think, if I remember correctly, I think the Melbourne program got shut down the year after us, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure like the people that didn't go last year, like are they going to go this semester, or
so they'll likely be starting back up in fall 22. Yeah, yep. So that'll be something we talk about later on in terms of some things that are going on there. But yeah, that's the target. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about the city in terms of your experience of the city as well?
Yeah, I was as I think Abby spoke before me. It was definitely a great city, very cultural in a sense, a lot of art, like as she stated. We also got to see like a lot of sites outside of Melbourne, like the beaches are nice. We got to the nightlife is, if you're into that kind of stuff, it's pretty nice too. The food is amazing. Like have all different cultural foods. Like especially if you're into Asian food, they have like the best Thai food there. A lot of great Japanese food. Like it has a great variety of just different Southeast Asian cultures there too. So if you want to explore that part of it, you can also explore those restaurants and different venues over there too. But yeah, and the university was just literally a 10-minute walk from where I was staying, so it was perfect location. We didn't have to be on a tram for too long. I would just if you wanted to take a tram, it was only like a 2-minute tram ride. But yeah, overall, like it's an incredible experience. And Australia is a very, like, it's not that big compared to us. So like, you can travel pretty easily around the country. I got to go to a few places while I was there, which was amazing. Like, it's incredibly beautiful over there. Funny thing is actually that I just started fantasy football with a few of my friends over there, and they didn't even know what football was until I got there. So I got introduced them into it and they got hooked. now every year we do fantasy football together, which is amazing. Do I just, blow up my phone and say, hey man, it's that time of the year. We need to leak and getting started again. So it was definitely one of, the best experiences I've ever had. And, it's great that I still keep in touch with people that I left over there.
That Francis brings up a really good point that I think is worth emphasizing, that I think one thing that kind of sets this program apart from maybe some of the other English speaking university programs, and maybe a lot of the programs just in general, is that it's a program where you have a lot of opportunities to make close friends with the local populations. A lot of times in some of our university-based programs, students tend to gravitate towards like fellow sort of international students who are there. And I'm sure that you all met folks like that as well. But, I think in both the case of Abby and Francis, they were hanging out with Australian students as well. So it's a place where you can do that, where there's a lot of interest on the part of Australians of meeting and hanging out with, and then you make these connections in a not necessarily a superficial way. I mean, the fact that you're still doing fantasy football with your, that's a perfect case in point for the kinds of connections there socially that you can make. So I'm really glad that you made a point of saying that. Let's talk about the university. So this is, we're so lucky to be able to have the University of Melbourne as a partner, because they are such a powerhouse academically. They're ranked #1 in Australia, and their global rankings have actually gone up. It used to be in the 31, 32, 33. They're now 25. So their star keeps on shining. It's a massive university. So that is actually one of the things that I find most exciting coming from like a Holy Cross student perspective, is that, if you were to try to pick a place that is at the polar opposite end of the spectrum when it comes to just, size of the institution, you've got Melbourne on one end and Holy Cross, there are 3,000 students on the other. So, just in terms of trying to give yourself an opportunity as a college student to experience like the full breadth of what higher education can be like, man, Melbourne is a great option for that, to really explore what it's like to be at a large, major research university. They also have a really big international student population. So, you can see 12,000 students here, 4 times the size of our own college class, the population at Holy Cross. So representing 130 different countries. So it's a really vibrant, dynamic, awesome place to study. We'll talk academics in greater depth in a little bit, but I just want to plant that seed right now, but that it's just is a really fabulous experience academically. So let's talk a bit about terms. University of Melbourne is in Australia, which is in the Southern Hemisphere, and so their academic calendar is somewhat offset from ours, right? So we start our academic calendar in the fall, and then we can have our winter break, and then spring, right? In it's a little bit different in Australia, in that they start their academic year actually in February, and then they continue with their second term, their semester 2, in what is our fall. So again, it's sort of reversed in that sense. And so if you're looking to consider going our fall semester, right? So fall 2022, you actually end up going early relative to us, right? So you would be going sometime towards the middle of July, and then staying through typically the second to third week of November. So that's something that you want to bear in mind as you're considering, weighing your various options, trying to decide fall, spring. Some amount of your summer months will be affected either on the beginning, the front end, or the back end, depending on whether you decide to go fall, spring. So you can see, for example, for our spring semester, which is semester 1, 2023, you would go somewhere. These are tentative dates, by the way. So you would go somewhere, towards the middle to end of February, and then stay through typically the middle to end of June. And you also have the opportunity to go for different versions of the year. So Abby was there to participate in what we would call our academic year, right? Which is where you pair their semester 2 with the following semester 1 that they have, right? So essentially our fall, our spring. But the thing to note about that as you're sort of planning things out and trying to figure out what the best option is for yourself, you'll notice that there's quite a big gap between the end of the fall semester, November 19, and the start of the spring semester, February 18, and that's because that is their summer. And so we'll talk about this in more depth later, but it's probably a decent time to segue into that. You have an opportunity to do a lot of different things. You can come back home if you want, but often what we encourage students to do, since it's so far away, is to get yourself a job. Australia is one of the places where on a student visa you are eligible to work, and during outside of the academic calendar you can work an unlimited number of hours. They pay a great minimum wage. And so many students have gone for that period of time, gotten themselves a job, found themselves an apartment, and then lived, in Melbourne during that period of time. Sometimes students take advantage of that opportunity to do out of country travel as well, to neighboring countries, Southeast Asia often. Abby, I know that your experience was a little bit different given what happened in terms of the pandemic, but do you want to share a little bit about how you approached that and what you did and what you may have done differently, et cetera?
Yeah, so I mean, that break wasn't really affected by COVID for me at least. So what happened was I finished in November. I traveled for the following month, almost month and a half. So I hadn't been to Sydney yet. I had done a couple trips with some friends. So we had previously gone to Cairns, which is where the Great Barrier Reef is. So we had done that. So we said, okay, we'll go to Sydney. We had already done New Zealand during one of the breaks. So like we had been in New Zealand already for about 10 days. So we did Sydney, we did Bali for a little over 2 weeks. I ended up in Singapore for like a couple hours. And then I came back to Melbourne, actually, and stayed with one of my good friends. Her name is also Abby. We're really close. So I stayed actually with her parents in Shepparton, which is outside of the city. And I stayed with her for a couple weeks and actually went to Tasmania with her as well. And then I came home just a bit for Christmas. I was home maybe less than a month, and then actually went back to Melbourne for a month and a half before school had even started, and just stayed with her in her apartment in the city. So like I sort of had the best of both worlds, where like I got to go home for Christmas, but I was in Melbourne for a majority of that like summer break. So I definitely like encourage traveling. New Zealand is absolutely amazing. Bali was very nice. And just going more around like Australia, if you don't get the chance, like I said, like I had been fortunate enough to be able to find weekends and like long breaks to be able to go during the school year. So I got to like build upon that while I was on break.
Awesome. Yeah. And the word that I've gotten from students who have stayed on in Melbourne and decided not to go home is that it's not overly difficult to find an apartment. So that had been a concern. They're like, well, I'm not sure, that sounds a little scary to have to look for something on my own. I've not found any interactions with students who have said that they really struggle to find a place to live during that period of time. So definitely options there.
Actually, like if you do decide to stay at the one of the residential colleges, they do have like sort of like deals that they can offer you to like stay during the breaks or wherever. Because I remember like I had stayed there a week after the semester ended, and my friend Nelly was getting an apartment in the city through the voucher program that the International House, the college that I was staying at, offered us. So like you can look into those options as well if you're interested in staying. They're a lot cheaper. To give you a great discount, so you don't have to spend too much out of your pocket.
That's a really awesome pro tip. I wasn't aware of that. So yeah, definitely tap into your residential college. We'll talk about them actually, coming up right after this. So that's really great, Francis. I wasn't aware of that.
I think sometimes it's only some.
Yeah.
Just because I know like Mary's, they rent out the rooms and like have conferences, so like we couldn't stay there.
Got it. So it depends on on which one. Yeah. Cool. Good to know. The other option in terms of spending the year is to spend what we call the calendar year, right? So maybe you're thinking to yourself, okay, that summer sounds cool, but I'm also, I'm just not sure of spending that, that much time, outside of, a structured sort of, coursework setup. You have the ability to go for the calendar year. So we've had several students pair a spring semester of their junior year with the fall semester of their senior year to be able to go for basically what amounts to the start of the University of Melbourne's academic calendar, so like the start of their year, and then continue on. They have a much smaller break. It's something like 2, maybe 3 weeks, and then continue on to the semester 2. So then you'd come back towards the end of your the fall semester of your senior year. That's again a great option for folks who are concerned about maybe costs during that interim period between the semesters. And it also has the advantage of you get to go there and experience the start of the academic year and the energy that's there for the beginning of the year as folks are arriving on campus for in some cases the first time. So Abby, obviously in your case, your second semester was cut somewhat short. Can you talk to folks a little bit about your decision to go for the academic year, and then ultimately what little you were able to spend of it, whether you have any regrets about the decision you made?
Yeah. So I mean, Chris knows that I sort of came into this like not having to be convinced to go for the year. Like I had sort of come into college and like one of my main like goals was just like being abroad for a year. And so I sort of was set in that, but I think that is like the best choice that I could have made. And I think like if you talk to some of the people who were in my class who had gone with me that fall semester, like many of them were sort of regretting that semester choice. And so the reason why I think that it's really great is because no matter where you go, you're going to have an adjustment period. Just as I'm sure like some of you are at Holy Cross, if you're there for the first time, like it's a new place, new experiences, new people. And so it just takes some time to getting used to, especially when you are thousands of miles away from home in a new culture. So like you're going to have a bit of a shock in an adjustment period. You're going to be making friends, like all of this takes time. I'm not going to say like it's overly difficult or anything like that, but time just plays a role there. And so by the time you finish that semester, you've sort of just started to get into feeling comfortable, being with your people, and really loving the place that you are in. And then it's sort of like, well, you have to go home now. And you don't really get to come back. And so that's why I think the year is great, is because sure, like I went home for like 3 weeks, but then I was back, and just, even though I wasn't at college for like many weeks, like I think we got sent home like 2.5 weeks in, like I'd still been there for almost 2 months because I had been staying in Melbourne with friends. And it was just so nice to be able to come back and see those people and come back to the city and be like, oh my gosh, like I know where I'm going. I know the things that I like, the restaurants that I should go to. I love seeing my friends, like having catch-ups during the summer, housewarming parties, whatever it was. So I think it just offers you like a great opportunity to like continue building those relationships, but then also like spend more time where you're like, oh, I've got this. Like this isn't a foreign place to me anymore. It's like a second home. I also recommend the academic year solely because to me, like I didn't want to miss, I mean, not that it really mattered for me, but like I didn't want to miss my senior year, right? Like I wanted to be there the entire year. I know like probably some of you are thinking that as well, just given like your first year wasn't amazing. So like wanting to have that like last year experience, like you do have a lot that goes on during that first semester, like all of your balls and stuff like that. So, I mean, in hindsight, like I missed it anyway. So I would say like, that's why I would do the academic year, but the calendar year is also great. I also wouldn't worry about the fact that you're coming in like the middle of their year. It doesn't really matter. No one really cares. Like, yes, people already have friendships, but like, it's not like a cliquey place. People are very open to making new friends, and like especially like if you live in a college, it's like very normal for them. And so like having new people there like that happens all the time. And it's not even with just like international students. Like one of my best friends from there it was her first like semester there as well. Like when she came in, she also came in the middle of the year. And so that's something that happens not just for like us as abroad students, but also just like in general, like other Australian students come in the middle as well. So I wouldn't really worry about that either.
Francis, do you have any comments? I know you were there for the fall semester. Did you have a similar experience in terms of being, feeling like you were able to integrate just fine despite, being sort of midway through the semester or midway through the academic year?
Yeah, I think for the most part, I feel like I was just going through it like quite quickly
Yeah.
because I knew I have limited time. So that's the one regret that I had, that I didn't actually get to stay in the moment and enjoy every experience. I was just more like, oh, I saw this, and I got to see that and see that and see that and meet this person and do that and do that. So like, that's the one negative by staying just the first semester. Like she said, like as soon as you start to immerse yourself and start building friendships and want to explore them further, you have to go home. So like that part of it, I mean, I definitely regret that. I wish I would have stayed longer for the full year, because I feel like it would have offered me that more opportunity to sort of like, visit more stuff, but also just be in a moment more. Because I feel like I built so many relationships with so many different people, but I didn't get time to like, delve deeper into them and sort of like develop them, further. Because I just had to go, so I had to do like virtually, like calling and FaceTiming, which is a bit more unnatural. But I mean, like for the time I was there, that was incredibly like very rewarding experience. Like the breaks that you have there with the academic year, you get to like travel, and sometimes because most classes are online, you could like blend your travel and doing your class at the same time. So like I would just miss like I don't encourage this, but like I'll miss like certain lectures that I knew like I could catch up like the following week and just go to sleep.
Earmuffs, Francis, earmuffs.
So things like that. So like the academic like structure is very flexible. So you could definitely enjoy experience and still keep up with the academics. But also like Abby said, you meet so many different people that can take it so many different directions. Like randomly on a tram, I just met a guy, that happened to like my shirt. Like I think I was wearing a US soccer shirt. He's like, "Oh, you guys have a good young core. Like you guys, might make noise in the World Cup." And he's like, "What university you go to?" I go, "Melbourne." And he's like, "Oh my goodness, like that's like the Harvard of Australia. Like you must be so smart." And then we started a whole conversation. He introduced me to like one of his sons who played club soccer there. I got on a club soccer team, and then we traveled to the Gold Coast. Like just off that one conversation, just 'cause, like people are just so open and like so welcoming. That I definitely wish that I would extend like my stay for the full year so I can have more experiences like that. But other than that, though, I definitely enjoy just like Abby said, like the international house experience, like that was amazing. Like I'm sure like Chris is gonna talk more about it. Like that's something that I encourage people to do because I feel like you meet so many different people, not just Australian people. But yeah, overall, like I definitely enjoyed it.
That's awesome. Francis, that's a perfect segue. Let's go ahead. Let's stop waiting around. We know you both are chomping at the bit to get to your residential colleges. So
like I feel like I really gotta like hype Mary's up here. Like usually it's only Mary's, so like I'm fine. But now that there's like competition, I'm like, okay.
Got some competition. All right. So for you folks, our sort of insider thing here is that you have essentially two categories of housing options that are available. The folks that we have here today are quite obviously biased towards this first one that we're going to talk about, which is the residential colleges. And then the second option that we'll talk about are the student apartments. All right. So residential colleges are a uniquely sort of Australian institution. It's kind of like these like 10 mini colleges. They house undergraduate and graduate students. They're located within a short, some are sort of like on the campus and, or like, in the immediate sort of outskirts, that they're all like within walking distance. And again, they're like these self-contained sort of mini colleges and sort of social communities. They each have their own sort of mission and identity. They're different sizes of them. Some are smaller, some are bigger. Some of them have like, are really like, big on like sports. Some of them are like more sort of academically, like, it's the whole range of different things. They all have these kind of unique, kind of amenities as well, like things that you can tap into, like some of the things that we talk about here, their own libraries, like music practice rooms. Often they will offer, tutoring sessions, where like, you can get together and kind of study with folks. What is nice about this option is, and I think that both Abby and Francis will be able to attest to this, is that it is an option that gives you a sort of plug and play social community to tap into, and a community that, I mean, Francis, in your case, it'd be a little bit different just because of the unique identity of your residential college. But in general, these are places that house a lot of Australian students, as opposed to the student apartments that we'll talk about in a bit, which tend to be more sort of, uniformly international students. And so if you're looking for an opportunity to really engage with Australians, like in the context of like your, living community, the residential colleges are a great option. The only other thing that I'll say is that, and I think that Abby and Francis will likely sort of, downplay this aspect of it, but it's important just, the interest of like really sort of showing the advantages and disadvantages, or let's say affords constraints. One of the things about, the residential colleges is when you commit to living in a residential college, you are on some level committing to participating as a sort of full member of that community, right? So there are, often sort of mandatory meetings that you have to go to, some dinners where there's expectations that that you're there, and you need to be there. If you miss certain meetings, they could, theoretically fine you or make you do stuff, you guys can talk about that if you've encountered any of that. And so, your life at the university, on some level is sort of like some more structure than. So if you're the kind of person that's like, listen, I don't want to be told when, what to do, when to do it, et cetera. I really would like to, do my own thing, cook my own food. That's another, detail that, we'll get to as well in terms of the student apartments. There, it's like groceries and, your own food. At the residential colleges, much like at Holy Cross, all of your meals are provided and you eat them in a, in a shared space, sort of on location there in your residential college. I've talked enough about these. Francis and Abby, you guys can duke it out on terms of who goes first.
Yeah, you can go first if you like, Abby.
Oh, okay, sure. So I went to St. Mary's College, which is the college that you see at the bottom left. So that's a picture of the front gate. In my opinion, St. Mary's is the best college. I will say that you will find like a lot of pride for when you meet people from colleges. It's like such a big part of your identity in like the best way possible. That being said, like you still meet other people from other colleges, but like I like fully am just like Mary's is the best place ever. So St. Mary's is one of the smallest colleges on the Crescent, which is where all of the other colleges are like aligned. St. Mary's has like around like 140 students maybe. We are not a sports college, so we have them, but we really struggle. The motto is that friendship always wins. So if you go to St. Mary's, I like really encourage you to play sports. Everyone just sort of does it to try, and then there's like a big celebration that everyone goes to at the end of the year. And as long as you went to like a single practice or like played at a game, like you're allowed to come to that. It's also just really fun. I really encourage like people to learn AFL, which is Australian football, also catch a game in Melbourne. Coincidentally, like the Melbourne team is red and blue, which is what St. Mary's team colors are, and our like college song is based off of them. So just saying. So St. Mary's is really small. It's a really welcoming community. We do have our own library that's shared with the picture on the left, which is Newman. So that's like a really great resource. It's called the Aki. That's where they have rooms for music. They've got pianos, like stuff like that. Mary's also offers you a gym membership to the UniMelb gym. So that's something that not all colleges offer you. And it's sort of like an expensive membership. So that's like super, super nice. The president, Darcy, is amazing. He's been there forever. He graduated, or he went to Mary's when he was in school. It's also super accessible to the tram. Mary's is the last, or like the first college on the Crescent. So the tram stop is right there. So that's super accessible, literally right across the street from campus. You get to stay in your own room. No one has roommates. We do have high table and stuff, which is like required dinners, but those are honestly like the best. They're not really like a chore where you're like, oh my God, we have high table. Like you want to go to high table. It's just like a lot of fun. We have like parties thrown for us, like in our junior common room. So that's really nice. We've got a kitchenette. Like I said, really small, but like it truly is a community where like I like did everything with the people that I lived with. And that you might think like that sounds so weird. But one, it was really small, but two, like that was the best. Like you would go out together and you'd look around and everyone in the place was from Mary's, or like you would go out to dinner, everyone in the like room was from Mary's. So it's just really nice. And like I said, like you have really you like really create bonds. Like I still talk to all of my friends from there. Like I call them. I was literally just texting one of my friends. And also we have a dog. So I feel like that makes us better. There's a dog. So just saying you should go there. And yeah, I think I'll like stop there.
That's
End
awesome.
on a high note.
Abby, the salesmanship is fantastic. I feel like you're like, all right, who can I sign up? Who's
Literally, because I want to go back and be like a tutor at one point. So I'm like,
Awesome.
I'll just tell Darcy I've just sent him people.
Perfect.
I mean, I would say that St. Mary's did have one of the best breakfasts though. Like, I had a few friends that I met.
Credit where credit's due. Nice.
That's a one positive thing that I noticed from there. But yeah, like for me, I was at an international house. They call it IH. So basically, there it's mostly international students. I think just slightly, just more. I think when I was there, I think it was 60-40, so 60% Australian and 40% international. But yeah, it was an incredible experience. The one great benefit that I had to being an upperclassman, even though it's my first year there, like you get priority in terms of like rooming. So like I had a perfect room. I had my own room, with a queen size bed, my own bathroom, my own closet. It was beautiful and a beautiful view. Some of the students that were living next to me were like graduate students that went to like University of Melbourne Medical School or the law school. So it was great. So like I got to meet a lot of classmen too. But yeah, that was a one great benefit getting there. The food was okay, kind of like Kimball in a sense, but it weren't very great. But the dinners, yeah, like the dinners were definitely my favorite part. So like the rule that they had there was that if you miss one of the dinners, which they have like I think once every 2 weeks, which is like a big high table dinner, so we wear like a gown and they serve wine, and if you're over 21, you can drink. I mean over 18 because Australia, obviously. So like those are mandatory, so you have to attend them every time. The penalty for missing it is like you have to write a love poem and perform it in front of everybody. So like I missed two because we were traveling to Sydney one week, and I had to write a love poem to Deborah, who's the head of the college, to basically professing my love to her in front of everybody, which was super embarrassing. But I was a little tipsy, so it made it a lot easier. And then I think another time when I missed, I had to buy her favorite wine, which is a sweet Australian wine. And delivered to her, and I had like tea time with her, which is a really awkward conversation about like just life in general. But she was great. Deborah was great. She's very awkward, but she's also a very great person. But yeah, and another thing that I did there, I played all the sports. Like I feel like that's the best way to meet people because I'm a sporty person, so that came naturally to me. We played St. Mary's in basketball. I was like Michael Jordan over there, dropping like they were terrible.
Listen, friendship always wins.
Spoken like a true
Yeah.
But I got to meet like a lot of great kids on St. Mary's, so that's how I was able to have breakfast with them one time. So it was great. Like we got to travel to the Gold Coast together, which is an amazing experience too. Yeah, I feel like the most rewarding experience about being at IH was how diverse it was in terms of like international kids. They had like Southeast Asian kids, European kids from South America, some kids from Africa. Like it was just very, very culturally diverse. And every week they'll have culturally like themed events where you get to learn about different cultures, which is amazing. And everybody there was just very positive and very excited to be in Australia, which is amazing. And we all got to do like a lot of things together, like obviously doing sports, but also like going out together. Like we have like, I think Pub Tuesdays where we all go to bars together and have fun there. There was different things that we would do. And some of the Australian kids that I met at IH too were very much into like social causes. So they do like environmental events that, for example, I think I attended a rally there protesting Indigenous rights with one of the Australian kids, which is amazing. And actually we got to go camping at the Uluru Desert, which is completely beautiful place. You know, obviously the bugs were not very friendly, like you've seen them, because I'm not that kind of person. I'm more like a city person, but it was definitely a rewarding experience because it got me out of my comfort zone, and I loved every minute of that. It just, yeah, I feel like the rewarding thing about the residential colleges is they have a lot of structured events that allows you to meet people and interact. Where like if you stay at one of the apartments, you can make friends there too, but it's less like much more less structured, it's more individual. So if you're a person that's very social, like you find it very easy to make friends staying in one of the apartments. But if you're like on the shy side, they kind of force you to integrate with other people and kind of like, you know, interact with them, which I appreciate that. Like I'm a very social person, but like I just wanted to experience that for myself, especially because I was only there for one semester. So I feel like having more structure would be much better to like, you know, see a lot of things in such a short span of time. So if you're only doing a semester, like I think residential college is obviously a great experience. But also if you're an individual person who likes cooking and, you know, doing your own thing, then the apartments is great. But IH was definitely one of the best experiences. Like all my friends, like I said, like we still do fantasy football. There's one kid from St. Mary's actually in our fantasy football team who's, you know, really into basketball. So I do fantasy basketball with him, but you know, we're still trying to get him to football. But his team is it's not looking very good. But hopefully he gets there. But yeah, like it's great, and Melbourne is a great sports city too. Like we got to see a lot of soccer games there, AFL games. So you know, if you're into that, also like you know, you try to look into it. And good thing about the university too, they sometimes they give out tickets like if you attend some of the events. So like I would say like the advice I would give everybody like at orientation, just go to every table and like get all the flyers. You know, introduce yourself. Sometimes we charge like $5 to sign up. You know, pay the five
Save your
dollars.
receipt. Save your
It's
receipts.
save your receipt, yeah, because Chris will reimburse you
Yep.
later on.
Yeah.
Send them to me. Yep.
But yeah, just go to orientation and meet everyone there and sign up everything. And I promise you, like you'll meet a lot of people through that.
I will say like also there's like social events that like you can go to like more widely like for all colleges like St. Mary's and like St. Hilda's like they throw balls. So like those are really fun to go to. There's like choirs and musicals that like some colleges will put on. So there's also like other activities like outside of sports like that you can do if that's not really like your thing.
Mhm.
One of the things I wanted to mention about the athletic culture is that it is, I mean, y'all can correct me if I'm wrong here, but my understanding is that relative to like a D1 sort of like cutthroat, like athletic culture in the US, the vibe that I understand is that it's much more about sort of having fun. I mean, certainly some you know competitiveness and playful, but it's more about sort of having fun. At least you know from what I've heard in terms of the intramural.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
it's
most definitely.
Yeah, it's more like intramurals the way it's set up. Like there's obviously like colleges that like I think Ormond is like really good at AFL. So like our boys like actually I think we won, but like they're really competitive in that. But I like girls, we were just like we're out here. Also like boy like netball, cricket, like we're not, especially in St. Mary's, we're just sort of like, let's go out and have a good time. Like, there's not that we must win. Like, just trying to get to practice is like everyone to focus because we're sort of just like, it's okay.
That's awesome. So,
Yeah, I mean it's super chill, and you also have fans. Like some of the people you stay with will come and support you, like even though you're losing. Like I remember, like we were playing NFL against it could have been Alderman, and like we were losing terribly, and we're all just having fun. They're cheering, they're saying your name. Like it's super chill. Like if you're into that kind of stuff, it's definitely a good a good experience to sort of like tap into.
Yeah.
recommend it for everyone, even if you don't consider yourself, you know, athletic. It's just it's a fun thing to get involved with. And the last thing I'll say about residential colleges is that, you know, if you are intimidated at the prospect of going to a university of the size of Melbourne, what's nice about the residential colleges is that they give you, again, this sort of community and it's kind of an additional layer of just sort of student service support, right? So if you're at the, you know, the university apartments, it's more of your experience of the place is sort of more independent. In general, whereas like you have resources, you've got the staff at the residential colleges as kind of like a first line of, you know, of support for different things. They, you know, they can point you in the right direction if there's things that they can't, you know, certain things that they can't help you with themselves. So it's just it's a useful thing there. In the interest of time, I want to transition to talking about the other option that you have there, which is the student apartments, right? And so these are a great option for folks who, again, who have heard all the stuff that I just talked about like, you know, the sort of like high levels of social engagement that are part of staying in the residential colleges. If you hear that and you're like, that doesn't really sound like my, you know, a good fit for me. I want to have sort of my own space. I want to come and go as I please. I want to have more control over things like my food. The student apartments are a great way to go. So what you end up having is you're in a single room, typically in a 4-bedroom apartment. They're fully furnished. You have access to kitchen facilities. And so the idea is that you're buying your own groceries and at local grocery stores, bringing it back and cooking and preparing your own food. So again, if you are looking for you know, something, again, a slightly more independent experience, they're a great option. It's not to say that, you know, you will be in a sort of like social desert if you decide to go in that direction. I mean, you know, they make an effort within the apartments to also have, you know, events and things. You have access to, you know, the full range of sort of clubs and both cultural, you know, athletic at the university more broadly. So there's a lot of points of entry socially for those who just do decide to go in the student apartment direction. So it's really just a question of kind of, you know, reviewing in depth, like kind of what each of them offers, you know, looking at the residential colleges as well. Kind of each of them has their own, you know, websites. Often they're on social media, so you can kind of get a visual feel for them, and then figuring out what the best option is for you. As you're listening to this too, if you're kind of on the fence about them, you can always, you know, arrange a time to meet with me and talk through your various options there. Let's see, we already talked about this, but yeah, if you're going for the academic year, again, you know, though you're on your own for finding your housing, there is a housing office at Melbourne that can assist you. It sounds like depending on which residential college you go to, you may have resources there as well to tap into. If you do decide to come home for that summer break and you're there for the academic year, that flight is your personal cost. We only provide a travel credit for one sort of round trip ticket. So visa. So to study abroad in the university in Australia at a university, you do need a student visa. It's a pretty straightforward process, provided you apply for the right one, right, Francis? That
was terrible.
that was a fun stretch.
Like, I did not get my visa until literally like 8 hours before, so I was supposed to travel.
Yeah.
And I was just like, forget it. I'm just gonna wing it. I'm gonna go with the flow. I'm gonna get it. And then literally on the day before I'm about to go, it just came.
but that won't happen to you. You'll have extensive inspections from our office to be able to make sure that you're applying for the right thing. But yeah, it's a straightforward process. It's all online. It doesn't take very long at all. Of the visa processes that I'm help students to navigate, it is easily the most straightforward. It's not the cheapest. You have expensive tastes. Those of you considering Australia, it's I would say probably the second most expensive visa after the year-long visa for the UK. So it's around $415, and that is just the student's responsibility. So I like to be really transparent about the costs that are involved in participating. That's one that you need to be prepared for. If you're not a U.S. citizen, you'll need to look into the visa requirements for citizens of your country. Again, awesome bit about the student visa is that you can work, you can get a job during the semester. I think the max number of hours you can work is something like 20 hours per week. We usually recommend like trying to cap things at like 10 to make sure that you have plenty of time for study and and other sort of things that you're going to be doing there. But it's a great way to sort of to make a little extra money to support the things you're doing for fun there.
I think there also is technically like a cap. I think it's like 40 hours every fortnight. So
exactly. Yep. So roughly like 20 hours per week, right? So yeah, absolutely. Let's see. In terms of your course, so here's where we'll talk a bit more about academics. The local system uses a different type of credit system in the U.S., but it really doesn't matter much because I have yet to find a student that's gone to Melbourne that has not had a standard 4-course load. So that's it's typical. You are able to fulfill major, minor, and common area requirements subject to approval by your major and minor concentration advisors. Common area requirements are approved by the registrar. Tips for avoiding, issues are to avoid, courses that are, non-liberal arts courses, sort of pre-professional courses. Abby may have, a bit
Yeah, I
of
was gonna say,
a caveat to offer there. A little tips for, for the trade there. But in principle, the idea is that, like, because you're going to a university where they have, non-liberal arts programs like business and law and medicine and so forth. So a lot of times students see those and then they're like chomping at the bit. They're like, wonderful, I can at long last, I can get to take that, business course I've been denied as a Holy Cross student this whole time. So pump the brakes a little bit on that. In general, those pre-professional courses are not eligible for Holy Cross credit. However, there have been certain courses that have been approved in the past. So if you're really, really, really interested, reach out to the registrar, talk to them. You might be able to work something out, as I think Abby did for, what was it, environmental law or something like that?
yeah. So I mean, I didn't even really have to, like, I was lucky enough where I didn't really have to work out too much. I will say that, like, you should, like, I will recommend like doing more work on the front end than the back end. Like, plan your courses, make sure that you talk to your study abroad advisor within your departments, because they're the ones who have to give approval first, or like confirm that that's okay. And that's going to be helpful when you then go to the registrar and say, like, here are my classes, because all classes have to be approved by them, whether they're common area or not. I will also say, like, if any, doing common areas in Australia or any place abroad is like probably the most easiest, but like, I will say that, like, I was a major and 2 minors when I was there, and I had finished all of my common area requirements before going abroad. And so, like, every single class that I took those 2 semesters counted towards my major or my minors. So like, every single class that I took, like, I did not take a free class where it didn't count. So like, you can make it work, but you just need to like go and make sure that you're actually getting things approved and that that's okay. And making sure that you're aware of like how many credits can count for you. So like, if you're going 1 semester, that's going to be less than if you go for a year. Then you're going to have more like credits that you can like spend while you're there. So I think that like having conversations with your department advisors is super critical for this.
So that's really helpful guidance there. And the way that Abby organized things in terms of, like not taking any common, like having done all of her common area requirements first, and then like having, obviously you want to explore broadly to liberal arts curriculum. So we don't want to discourage you from like, exploring broadly, but certainly, just from this, perspective of just like strategizing for, study abroad. We advise students to work with their major advisors to ensure that you're at least taking some courses abroad towards your major, because it's really great to kind of experience the way your discipline is taught in another country and another type of institution. It really enriches your program of study. But like, maxing out on those is also not necessarily advisable, just because one, the workload often, by the time you're going abroad, you've advanced to sort of like upper level courses and so forth. So like, maxing out on upper level courses sort of takes you away from some of the other things that we want you to be doing in Australia. It's it's certainly, we value the study and study abroad, but we also want you to be taking advantage of all these like extracurricular types of things. So some balance between major and major requirements and common area requirements is helpful. And yeah, in essential, it's a 3-step process. There's like pre-advising, which you can begin even as early as now, where you're talking to major and minor advisors, talking to registrar about common area requirements, getting your arming yourself with so your plan A, B, and C will just make it an easier go for you when you go to step 2, which is where you're actually registering for courses at the university, and then step 3 is when you're applying to you're formally requesting approval for those courses. We'll get into the weeds of that, individually when we, as we get closer to time. But yeah, it's definitely, starting now is not a bad thing to do.
I will also, like, I have to pop off soon because I got to go back to work. But I will also just say that, like, I really, really encourage people to take like at least one course about the Indigenous people of Australia. Like, it's very incredible learning about them, and also they'll be a lot more present in your classes than you'll like sort of expect at first. Like, I know for us at college, and then also for some of our classes, like the first thing that we do when we get in the class is to acknowledge the land on which like we are learning or we are living. And so that's something that like we did every night during like dinners where we met. We acknowledged like the Wurundjeri people. So like that's something that you'll sort of start hearing. And so it's like very interesting to learn about and something that I like really encourage people to do. On the other side of things, if anyone has any questions, like since I do have to pop off, please feel free to email me. We can set up a time to talk or text, whatever is easiest for you. I obviously like loved being at this place, so like I really want everyone.
Oh shit! Oh my god!
Andrew, if you could turn, Andrew, if you could mute you. Actually, look, I can do that. Perfect. There it goes.
Yeah, so I just like really encourage you to go. So feel free to reach out to me. I think my info is already on the study abroad site and everything. So yeah, I wish you guys luck at the rest of your semester and hopefully you go to Australia.
Abby, super grateful that you were able to join us. Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it.
Bye.
So on that, since Abby made the point of bringing up the courses on Indigenous people and culture and language, you have a requirement actually as study abroad participants in the Melbourne program to take one sort of Australian content course. And there are a wide range of options that are really fascinating to take, and so definitely encourage you to pursue that. So want to show you briefly just that a tool that you can use to begin kind of planning. So just sorry here. Okay, so this is the Melbourne Handbook. Just to very quickly show you, if you look this up, this is the course catalog. Quick lesson in Australian English. We say course for class. In Australian English, course is more like program of study. So to use this list to get the most out of it, you want to narrow it to subjects. And so you can do different types of things. You can do keyword searches. You can narrow things to undergraduate coursework. You can search by area of study. Anthropology to see what the options that are available to you. So this kind of gives you just a basic tutorial on how to use this. So you can already begin the process of seeing the kinds of subjects that you have available to you, and then you can see how that connects with your major. If you're interested in a more sort of in-depth sort of tutorial on this, I can easily set up a time with you via Zoom to do that. I wonder, Francis, if you could talk to us just a little bit about the differences that you perceived in terms of academics at Holy Cross versus academics at the University of Melbourne, and how you managed that and ultimately did what you could to sort of take advantage of those differences. Yeah.
I think there was basically a lot more individual based. So you have to keep up individually with the work throughout the semester, where Holy Cross, for example, we have quizzes or we have, papers or, things of that nature to sort of keep up with the material as it goes. Where in Australia, we just basically had 2 grades for the entire semester. I had a midterm and a final for all my classes. So basically no quizzes, no assignments, nothing like that. So you have to keep up with the work as it goes. Take notes, make sure your notebook is intact, but it's all very doable. No class was extremely hard because Holy Cross kind of prepares you for sort of the rigor once you cross over into Melbourne. But I found no difficulty. The TAs there were very helpful because you have every week, I think you have at least 3 or 4 sort of practicums. If you've taken a language before, it's kind of like practicum. You go in and practice the material that you covered during the lectures. So during that process, you can ask all your questions, all your concerns, and the TAs are very approachable rather than the professors are a lot harder to reach because they teach such big classes compared to Holy Cross, where a professor can only have 15 students. In Melbourne, there was a class where I was 300 kids in one room. So that kind of gives you a bit of a perspective where the tutorials or the practicums, they kind of narrow it down. So it'd be 15 to 10 kids. So you could break down the material, answer questions and, voice your concerns and things of that nature. But the TAs are very approachable. You could even text them. Sometimes they're very personable. If you were, for example, working on a midterm paper and you had questions, you could definitely text them saying, "Hey, Alyssa, I'm stuck on this concept. Could you explain it? And they'll give you a whole, brief breakdown of it. They're very cool, and they're very much interested in material because most of them are studying for like a PhD program. So they're very well invested into material, and they're very passionate about it. So yeah, that'll be the biggest tool. If you do struggle, like reach out to them. And also, like if you do study at residential colleges, they have individual tutors. For example, if you take STEM classes, especially, like they have like individual tutors where like they'll further tutor you in the material and make sure like it's easier for you to grasp.
That's awesome. Super helpful, Francis. Thank you. Let's see. Is anything else?
And actually, Chris, I gotta hop off too, but
yeah,
like
all good. Francis,
my info is there, and everybody's welcome to like reach out to me if you have questions. I know it's been a while since I've been there, so some of the things might not be relevant, but I still have friends that live in Australia. So if you have inquiries or things of that nature, like feel free to reach out to me, and I'll be more than helpful to assess. Like I loved it. Like Abby said, like it's definitely a place that you want to see. Like if you think of like environmental stuff, is a place to go. The city life is a place to go. Nature stuff is a place to go. If you love the sea, you like to swim. If you want to even scuba diving, like it got all of it. So like definitely a place to be. I recommend it to everyone who's very much interested. And yeah, feel free to reach out to me.
awesome. Francis, you're the best. I can't thank enough for taking time out to join us for this. Super helpful. Really appreciate it.
Of course, good to see you, my guy. I'll see you soon.
Sounds good. Take care.
Bye.
So the other thing that I'll point out is that as a university-based, a massive university program, one of the key advantages you'll note when you go to that Melbourne handbook is just that within each discipline, you have just dozens and dozens of course options. And so that's one of the advantages of studying at a place like Melbourne is that, when it comes, if you're, looking to expand your academic horizons, you have, just a huge course catalog to take advantage of, to study, certain, like kind of drill down deep into your disciplines and study topics that, may not be offered, and in fact, in many cases are not offered at Holy Cross. So finances. So we've talked about this some in the general info session, so I'm not going to go into it in tons of depth, but, we try to make things as cost neutral as possible. So, your tuition and your housing are going to be exactly the same as at Holy Cross. The board fees in terms of what you pay for food will depend on what the program is offering you. So if, like, you stay in the residential colleges, for example, where all of your food is provided, then you'll receive, then you'll be billed for full board like you would at Holy Cross on a meal plan. If you're at the student village apartments and where you're not receiving any food as part of the program, then you won't be billed any board fees for that semester. And the idea is that you would ask, your financial aid officers to continue to issue you financial aid in the amount as if you were paying for board. And then you use whatever that surplus amount is to then pay for groceries. The other things to anticipate, again, as we mentioned, visa fees are a student responsibility. University of Melbourne, for all the housing options there as well. You also, students are responsible for paying any refundable housing fees that are a part of their housing, and typically that's the case for all the options there. It's essentially like a security deposit where you pay a certain amount up front, assuming you don't put any willfully damage your space. You'll get it back in full at the end of the semester or the academic year. But just to be aware that is an expense you need to be prepared for up front. Personal expenses, much like at Holy Cross, if you travel, go out to eat, go shopping, you need, your own money, just like as you're, at Holy Cross. You're responsible, as I mentioned, for booking your own flight, and responsible for paying for it at the time that you do so. The way that it works in terms of the travel credit is, again, we give you what essentially amounts to a discount on your tuition for whatever semester you're going abroad. And that discount is in the amount of an average round trip ticket from Boston to your program destination. So so that's the way that works, to try to offset that cost for you. Another important note here is you're trying to decide sort of fall semester versus spring semester. Because of the differences in the academic calendar, if you're a student who relies on financial aid to, say, cover things like like books and that sort of thing, living expenses, you want to think carefully about the fall semester, because you obviously are arriving in Melbourne and starting your semester there in the middle of July, and your financial aid won't be dispersed typically until sometime in August. So there will be that sort of gap between starting your program and then like your financial aid being dispersed. Whereas you don't have that same issue for the spring semester because your financial aid will typically, hit your account sometime in January, and you don't actually arrive in Melbourne until like the middle to end of February. So just a sort of tip there. We mentioned, working in Australia. Again, it's got a great, minimum wage. Eligibility. So here's one where I will want to emphasize that that the University of Melbourne does have let me back up. So for a lot of our programs, we have some amount of flexibility when it comes to the eligibility requirements. If a student, is close to a 3.0, but has all, everything is looking good otherwise, we may have flexibility with the institutions. The University of Melbourne is one of those institutions where we don't really have that kind of flexibility. You have to have a 3.0 cumulative GPA at the time that you, in order to get accepted to the university. Now, if you are borderline, let's say, somewhere in the 2.85, 2.9 range, somewhere in there, you do potentially have you could potentially request conditional admission. So where, you would basically, I would say, okay, we conditionally approve you to apply to the University of Melbourne, but you need to bring up your GPA before you actually end up going. So if you are really interested in Melbourne, it seems like the place for you, go ahead and apply to the university anyway. Let me, again, as I said in the general info session, be the one to determine that you're not eligible on the basis of GPA. Course deficiencies, just to reiterate, if you have, if you withdrew from a class at some point over the last 3 semesters, you need to make that up prior to studying abroad. It's okay if you have a deficiency at the time of applying right now, but before you end up actually going abroad to your program destination, you need to have fulfilled that deficiency by taking either a 5th course or a summer class, something along those lines. And you need to have declared a major prior to going abroad. Again, it's okay if you don't have one at the time of applying, but prior to actually going abroad, you need to have formally declared a major. That way we, can make sure that, you're going to be making adequate degree progress when it comes to your program and study. Applying is really straightforward. Again, it's through sa.holycross.edu. You'll write up a 2 to 3 page personal statement explaining, why you want to study at the University of Melbourne, why you think, it's a good fit for you academically, socially, culturally. 1 letter of recommendation. You'll ask a faculty member to prepare a letter of recommendation for you, and you'll upload a copy of your unofficial transcript to your online Holy Cross application or Holy Cross Study Abroad application. The last thing that I'll mention before opening things up for question is that it's really, really, really important that if you do not currently have a valid passport, that you need to renew your passport or get a new one ASAP. Processing times right now are longer than usual owing to COVID-19, and so it's something that you want to make sure that you are taken care of sooner than later. We actually are making it a requirement this time around that if you don't have a passport now at the time of applying, that's okay, but you need to at minimum show us evidence that you have applied for either a new passport or a renewal. On that note, I just want to make a point as we open things up to questions, just to address COVID-19 and some of the rumblings you may have heard about Australia and sort of the border restrictions and so forth. So, and here I'm going to go ahead and escape this so we can get back to this format. Currently, Australia has not yet opened its borders to international travelers. And so as a result of that, we have not been able to send students there for the past couple of semesters. And it's looking likely that this coming spring semester, so spring 22, will be different, that we'll have to, that we won't be able to send students for the spring. As we're looking at the program, we have every hope and expectation that things will, by the time that you end up, applying to go, which would be for fall 22, spring 23, that the program, the borders will be open, we'll be back up and running. If you're concerned about that, it's something that we can talk to, you can talk to me about. The other thing that's important to note too, for programs like Melbourne, where that might be the case, we have a lot of flexibility, right? So let's say you are in this moment, I have gone through this process, you get through the end and you're like, boy, Melbourne is definitely the way that I want to go. But I'm concerned about the COVID-19 thing. What should I do? my recommendation to you is to apply to your first choice of program, apply to Melbourne. And what we will do is we will make sure that well in advance of application deadlines for other host institutions, other programs, we will let you know if there's any chance that the program won't run in the fall or won't run in the spring 23, to give you ample opportunity to jump ship and then get yourself on an alternative study abroad program. So it's, even if you apply to a Melbourne, that doesn't mean like you're doing so at the expense of study abroad altogether. On the contrary, we have lots of flexibility, and we'll be able to get you in an alternative program with plenty of time to do so.